Thank you, Brett. Australia has welcomed in 2022 in spectacular style, despite many choosing to enjoy the fireworks from home. Live to our team of reporters now, Angelique Opie is in Sydney. Angelique, the official word was go out and celebrate. Is that what happened?
Yes, Sydney siders. A skyline of Sydney Harbour came alive overnight as it was a show to remember after we farewell a turbulent year. Now, it came as a record spike in COVID cases. Yesterday, more than 21,000, but that didn't stop Sydney siders celebrating. Tens of thousands enjoyed the night of nights and foreshore vantage points were ticketed. Fireworks bursting with colour and pyrotechnics in shapes of whales, shells and sunflowers were on display, as well as 25,000 shooting effects. Between the show, there was a sea of blue on the bridge, paying tribute to our frontline workers. Now, overall, police praise the activity of Sydney siders. 128 arrests were made across the state, 10 in the CBD, a promising start to 2022.
And Jordan Bissell is on the Gold Coast. Jordan, Queenslanders are pretty keen to put this year behind them.
Yeah, Angie, certainly some very sore heads on the Gold Coast and in Brisbane this morning as Queenslanders bid goodbye to a terrible year, as we've seen across the rest of the country, full of lockdowns and border closures and real extreme uncertainty for business owners here in Queensland. As we just heard in Sydney, there was a record number of cases recorded yesterday. Same in Queensland. In the last 2 weeks since the borders have reopened, we have seen a continued increase in cases. Yesterday in Queensland, we recorded more than 3,100 cases. We've now got almost 14,000 active cases in Queensland. No doubt that will continue to climb over the coming days in the wake of huge crowds that we saw last night in southeast Queensland at parties and watching those fireworks. However, the new Chief Health Officer has said that he's adapting a much more pragmatic approach to contact tracing, just for the sake of businesses who've already been incredibly hard hit in 2021. He isn't continually contact tracing and contacting people who may have been in contact with COVID. He's just saying if you have experienced some symptoms, you should get tested. From today as well, a PCR test isn't required to enter Queensland. You can just show that you have received a negative antigen test result in the last 72 hours before re-entering. It comes as well as the Queensland government has gotten rid of that 5-day testing requirement for people re-entering, which was putting a huge strain on testing lines in Queensland and in New South Wales. But as we get closer to our 90% double vaccinated rate, Angie, soon you won't need a test at all to enter the Sunshine State.
Right, and Christy Cooper is in Melbourne. Christy, after a record-breaking lockdown period, did Melburnians get out and party?
Some of them certainly did. Others opted to stay home and take it easy instead. It's a balmy 23 degrees in Melbourne right now, and this is the same temperature that it was as the clock struck midnight last night. A scorcher of a day turned into a really beautiful warm night, but that heat might have kept some people away. Our festivities were confined to 4 main celebration areas in the city, and there was quite a spectacular fireworks display in those 4 areas, but certainly not the big skyline display that we have had in previous years, and that was intentional to keep those celebrations confined to controlled areas. Many people who weren't there, however, took to the beaches. Our beaches were packed. St Kilda foreshore was pumping with people, but many of them spreading out and cooling down after a really hot day. It's going to be another scorcher today. Today 37 degrees. There's been a number of grass fires overnight with people letting off illegal fireworks, so that's something that authorities will be a bit concerned about today as well. Back to you.
Yeah, Rosie Barnett is in Adelaide. Rosie, your Chief Health Officer was telling South Australians to keep it quiet, did they?
No, not really. Despite Nicola Spurrier telling us to keep it our quietest New Year's ever, plenty still turned out here at Rymel Park for one of the city's biggest celebrations. Last night, 5,000 people were allowed into the ticketed Light Up Festival, which included a family-friendly fireworks display at 9:30 and then, of course, your traditional midnight one to bring in the new year. Social distancing and masks were mandatory and vertical consumption banned. It was part of a handful of organised celebrations that were scattered across across the city last night to avoid too many people congregating in one place. But that didn't stop 25,000 from heading to the blockbuster Big Bash at Adelaide Oval, certainly the largest crowd of the night. Venues had slightly scaled back celebrations with just 25% capacity permitted indoors and no dancing allowed, so a little quieter than usual along Hindley Street, Adelaide's key nightclub strip. And a much quieter night for those celebrating at home, with caps of just 10 people per household, so not quite the usual big house parties that often bring in the new year. But with midnight also came some big changes for people coming into SA. Interstate arrivals no longer need to complete an entry check SA form or take a rapid test to enter the state, and fully vaxxed international arrivals no longer need to quarantine.
All right, thanks team. Happy New Year to you, and we'll check in for more throughout the morning.